Yeah, good morning, everybody here, and thanks for the introduction. Somebody needs to now start my PowerPoint presentation. Actually, I had this PowerPoint presentation, or similar one, when I presented the Laudato Si here, together with, thank you, Cardinal Turkson and Metropolitan John of Pergamon, who is also here today. It was, I think, a defining moment in time. Before I start, let me pause and take 1 or 2 minutes, actually, and tell you about my role here, because I have the most unpleasant role of everybody here in the conference, because I have to tell you the scientific truth about the situation we are in. And let me refer to the wonderful John Gamma, aka Lord Devon now, whom I met before, and who tried to cheer you up, actually, and to tell you there's a lot of cause for optimism, there is urgency, yes, but we can solve this problem. And I do share this, but first I have to cheer you down, actually. Yeah? And maybe referring to a personal experience I made in my life, some of you may know this agonizing situation when you feel unwell for a long time and you go to see a medical doctor. And when he takes all the examination and comes back, and when you are anxious to hear about the verdict, is it just an infection, a flu? Is it an inflammation, or is it cancer? And the answer is, yes, it is cancer, actually. There is a cure for cancer if you are early on in diagnosing it, but when the cure will not be simple, actually. So I'll tell you about the cancer of the Earth now. A last call for the planet. Now, let's go to the, if it works, yes, you have seen this. Bill McKibben has seen this, who has joined us now. And this is just the fever curve of the planet. And you see it's going up. There are some intermissions, a La Nina event, an El Nino, when global warming is even boosted by the oceans. But all in all, you see an upward trend. And actually, so who is causing that? And I recall 30 years ago in the scientific community, is it the sun? Is it air pollution? Is it CO2? Is it the will of God? Whatever, is it orbital movements? And now we know, and this is the next slide, if it works. So, yes. Which we also presented with the help of Patricia Espinosa, who is on the panel to the COP23. It more or less tells you that 95 to 98% of the global warming we see is really caused by anthropogenic interference. So it is clear who is behind that. It is us. Now, people may still say, well, this is an abstract theory based on quantum mechanics and radiation physics and so on. I don't care. But we are seeing the writing on the walls everywhere now. So let me refer to, yes. Last year, many may have forgotten already, but we had these devastating hurricanes, 3 of them or 4 of them, in the Caribbean, in the United States. So you had record storms, you had record downpours in Houston, unheard of, really, record floods in Nepal, record heat waves in Europe, record wildfires. I mean, in these times, we keep on forgetting these terrible things, but writing on the wall is becoming ever denser and ever clearer, actually. And by the way, there's a very interesting post-analysis. You know, Hurricane Maria more or less destroyed Puerto Rico. It may take 3 decades to recover from that. But President Trump more or less said, well, you were really lucky, only 40 people died in that event. Now, this is reanalysis in a journal, in a respected journal, New England Journal of Medicine, which comes to the conclusion at least 4,600 people died prematurely of that. Why? Because the electricity was down in the hospitals. People could not be treated anymore. So this turned actually in a human disaster. So my own contribution to the field of climate science was in particular talking about the so-called nonlinear events. So we heard about Jade Hamster. She's here, and I talked to her in the coffee break. She presented us with a stunning evidence from Greenland, for example, that the ice sheet is melting down very fast, actually. And these are the things we scientists are most afraid of. It's not the incremental change. Summer's getting hotter, you know, but we can adapt to it. Sea level is rising slowly. It's okay. We will build seawalls. But what happens in the Earth system, and you see a map of the, if you like, vital organs and tipping elements in the Earth system. These are the vital organs of the body of the Earth, like the vital organs in the human body, like the lungs, the heart, the kidneys. And they may fail if we turn up the heat, actually. And some of the first who will fail, which will fail, are the big ice sheets. Actually, it seems that West Antarctica, huge parts of West Antarctica, have already transgressed the red lines. They will decay, and they will add about 3 meters to sea level. And this is irreversible. So let me show you now. So here on the map, you see the big ecosystems of the world, the Amazon rainforest, but also the Great Barrier Reef. I've been to Australia last week, and I thought everybody would be completely scared and up in arms because the Great Barrier Reef is dying. Nobody was talking about it, actually. It's unbelievable, really. This part, and actually it's the most beautiful part of our common home, is being destroyed before our very eyes, and nobody takes care. So let me show you. Here we have evidence that thermaline circulation, also known as the Gulf Stream, has been weakening 15% already till since 1980, something like that. We have independent evidence also done at our institute. This may mean in the end a complete shutdown of the Gulf Stream. And now let me see, next one, if it works. Yeah, here we go. Sorry for that. Now, you know, in every talk, there is a slide you must not miss, actually, and it is now. So if your neighbor has fallen asleep in the meantime, give him a good, you know, with your elbow or whatever, but don't try to be not too harsh, actually. Now, this looks like a complicated map, but this is the map for steering the Earth out of crisis, actually. So what you will see, I take a minute for explaining it to you. So the horizontal axis, that is time. So minus 20,000 means that was 20,000 years before Christ was born. And 2,500 is the year 2,500 after Christ was born. Now the wiggly line is global mean temperature, as we have reconstructed with fantastic scientific methods. And you see, emerging from the last ice age, the global mean temperature was just 3 degrees cooler than pre-industrial. We were reaching in the Holocene a plateau of unheard of climate stability. This was when our civilization was born, because agriculture was invented. Cities were built. This could only be done because the climate was benign. And now on the right-hand side, you see the scenarios where we will go by the year 2500. If everything goes right, if everybody adopts the encyclical Laudato Si, for example, we will be on the green line. That means for millennia, we will have 1 degree warming. This cannot be avoided anymore, but not more. But unfortunately, we are on the dark red line. That means we are heading for 8 degrees warming by the year 2500. 8 degrees. The 3 degrees which were mentioned is only till the year 2100. But global warming will go on. I will come back to that in my last slide. And now you see the arrow bars, because we scientists need to be truthful. We cannot tell you with absolute certainty that the Greenland ice sheet will melt down at 1.6 degrees warming. But we give you the danger zones. And you see all the vertical bars here are for the various big events, the West Antarctic ice sheet, that's the left part of it, the Greenland ice sheet, the coral reefs, and so on. When the color turns red, we are sure that this vital organ will be destroyed. And what you see here is also the Paris range, 1.5 to 2 degrees. It's the horizontal bar in gray. And the sad news is that even if we achieve the Paris Agreement goals, some of these tipping elements will be already changed in their mode of operation, in particular the coral reefs. The coral reefs will even die, according to our knowledge today, with 1.5 degrees warming. The Greenland ice sheet may or may not melt down some parts of West Antarctica. But that does not mean we should not deliver on Paris, quite to the contrary, because if you go beyond it, you see in the middle, in the center, on the right-hand side, you see all the other things that will happen. Actually, in the end, East Antarctica will melt down, and that will deliver a stunning 60-meter, 60 sea level rise. That will change the map of the Earth. So we have every reason for delivering on Paris, but unfortunately, it's too late to undo everything which we have done to the planet already. So when it comes to the other big theme that was mentioned in the beginning, human migration, there is a very nasty battle in Germany, for example, my home country, about it, because Angela Merkel, my chancellor, opened the boundaries, opened the country to migrants, and now the conventional forces try to strike back. You have the same situation in Italy and so on. But this is a map where you see the dark red on this map. It means that all year round in the year 2100, you cannot survive outside your home because of humidity and temperature. Now look there, it's all of the tropics more or less. All year round there will be conditions where human life cannot be sustained more than 10 minutes outside or things like that. It's a so-called wet bulb temperature which combines humidity and temperature. And if you don't believe that, look up the paper. It was published last year, actually. And I can go on and sort of talk about sea level rise. Actually, sea level rise, according to business as usual, will affect 1.4 billion people by 2060. Again, you can read that paper. We're not talking about 1 million people seeking refuge from Syria. We talk about hundreds of millions of people who will have to be displaced on this planet. How will we do it? Well, see, takes a long time. Maybe,
we need batteries.
Yeah, obviously we ran out of power. You see, that's the irony of it. But maybe, yeah, it takes a long time. Okay, let me just sort of an intermission of hope. There was a picture I came across which moved me to tears, really. You see, this is Arbin near Damascus, March 27. And you see this lonely gardener in the ruins, in the ruined house, tries to raise his plants, actually. That is the situation we are in. So let me see how many tries I have to make. Maybe somebody can move it forward. Okay, so let me tell you the following thing. And I discussed it with Cardinal Parolin, for example, and we, through the Pontifical Academy, Marcelo Sanchez Sorondo is here now, the Chancellor of the Academy, which was heavily involved in the encyclical. I mean, think of Tuvalu, Kiribati, Samoa, Marshall Islands, and so on. And think of what will happen with 2 meter sea level rise. These nations will be gone. They will be homeless, actually. What are we going to do about it? Now, there are two ways. You could say top-down, you will just relocate these people, give them money to move to California or Switzerland. That will not happen. But nevertheless, or give them, empower these people, give them the freedom of mobility. And so there's a proposal referring to this gentleman here, if he, yes, it worked. Now, Jade will know about him. This is one of my heroes. This is Fridtjof Nansen, the godfather of polar research, who also won the Peace Nobel Prize because he introduced the so-called Nansen passport, which allowed people who have lost their home because of the Soviet Union, for example, Marc Chagall, Stravinsky, others, they got a passport to enter at least about 50 countries. Why not creating a climate passport, actually, today? given to all those people who cannot live anymore in their original, which gives them access to all the countries who destroyed their home, like the United States. And actually, I'm serious about it. We will propose this. We talk to international lawyers and so on. This will be an initiative, and hopefully it will be supported by the Vatican. So I talked about cancer, and now let us talk about the cure. So there was a workshop here recently where Cardinal Antarctica invited representatives from the big oil companies. And Pope Francis gave him the honor to provide a speech, a very powerful speech. I read the text. And more or less he told those people, leave the oil in the ground, leave the coal in the ground. And it is like that. There's overwhelming scientific evidence that it is complete madness to search for new oil fields, for example. Even the existing oil, some of it will be burned, of course. But actually, you see here the global emissions curve, how we have to bend it down by the year 2050, more or less. In the first phase, we will have to phase out the combustion engine. We have to replace coal by renewable energy. We will have to construct our homes in the future from wood instead of cement and steel, and so on. But we cannot afford to explore and to prospect for new fossil fuel resources. Full stop. So this is the cure. And I'll skip that. Let me, if it works somehow, maybe you are better. Maybe, oh, it only obeys to the ladies. That is what technology is all about. So, because you asked before who is doing these wonderful cartoons, now this cartoon I've done myself. And it's a world first, actually, so please bear with me. I recall 30 years ago, I was in California, actually working at the University of California, Santa Cruz. The spring was unusually warm. And in the Senate in Washington, there was this famous hearing where Jim Hansen thought, this is global warming. I'm 99% sure now. Actually, he couldn't be 99% sure, but he was right. It's more important to be right than to be rigorous, by the way. So everybody should heed that insight. Now, in 1998, I recall that people were very concerned about global warming. What you see here. You see, it is like driving in a bus. The driver is our government. And you just stare across the window pane, and you see something is emerging on the horizon. And people were very concerned then. What is the situation today? We are in the midst of global warming. We're diving into it. We are in the middle of it. And people fiddle with their smartphones. And you see the young boy in the background. He's not watching it in real reality, but in virtual reality. That's where we have ended. And that is the situation. And just observe the government. They have given up to deal with the problem. They just have outsourced responsibility to whom? McKinsey, scientists, faith leaders, the Pope. But they have given up to tackle the problem. Now, I know that Patricia does not want to hear that, and she is actually working precisely against that. She tries to array the political leaders of the world to do something about it at COP24 and beyond. It needs to be done. So, actually, the driver needs to take control again. But we have to stop fiddling with our smartphones, actually. Let's face the real world. So I end up with hoping that I haven't depressed you completely so far. But I end up with a paper which is probably the most important paper I have co-authored, which is submitted to the National Academy of Sciences in the United States, PNAS, and it will appear, I skip that, which will appear in a month from now or so on. It has been accepted already. And this is about, we call it the trajectories of the Earth system in the Anthropocene, we are living in the Anthropocene now. We are a geological force. We have already suppressed the glacial cycle, as I could demonstrate with my colleagues. But this is about a global tipping point, maybe. Yeah? It means that, you see, we have been between the glacial and the interglacial for millions of years. And today it may be that we will enter a hothouse trajectory, a slippery slope. That's the right-hand side with development. So don't fool yourself. It will not be easy to just park the Earth safely between 1.5 and 2 degrees. It may mean that all the ecosystems may conspire to make this instead a slippery slope. So the situation will get out of hand. And in order to bring back the Earth to an upper Holocene stable situation, that's the center one, we have to do just everything, and time is of the essence. So you see, yes, cancer can be cured if you sort of observe it early enough, if you are willing to undergo heavy treatment, transformative treatment actually. But if we fiddle around with our smartphones with another 5 years, we will be done. Thank you.